Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever in the world you might be. I am Nicole BC, and you know everything. Aloha! I'm excited about this one. If you have been paying any attention the last few episodes, I am doing a summer series. I typically do this. I'm looking at musical artists as entrepreneurs, and I am doing my very best to pull out a handful of different artists that I think are really changing the game. They're disrupting the industry. They are doing things their way, and in doing so, changing the way everything is getting done. Now, I had my own list of artists, and they date me for sure. Most of them. Actually, it's like, I don't know if this is going to be true. A lot of them are no longer with us, but their art most certainly is. The artists I've picked, I think, are household names. I mean, literally around the world, everybody fucking knows who they are. For some reason, I feel like that probably informed my decision making a little bit more than it should have. But when I think about these next few artists that we're going to do, that were all suggested by listeners. And so I would encourage you to submit any artist you think has changed the game and deserves to be a part of this series to hello@NicoleBZ.com. And I will do a deep dive into their own art, the legacy they're creating, and I think how that applies to 21st century business building. If you know, you know. I think we're all creatives. I think we are all artists in our own right. I think building business is a creative act. It is a protest. It is a way to identify and carve out your own sovereignty. It is the ultimate in creating the world that you want to live in. If you're looking to have an impact, if you're looking to change things, if you have an opinion about what's happening right now in this world, solving problems your way, taking your ideas seriously, I believe is the best way forward. I have so many opinions on this. I think it's the only way forward, but obviously I'm incredibly biased about that. Also, if you know, you know, I worked in music for a very, very long time. I also worked in nonprofits and arts. And I think that the ultimate protest, the ultimate activist is the person that is willing to take their ideas so seriously that they share them with the world. Now, some of these next few artists, I might have opinions about in terms of how I feel about their art. But what cannot be argued, what cannot be dismissed is the way that they are disrupting the industry. Now, these guys are a lot more contemporary, as in they haven't been around for very long. So we don't know, will my children or grandchildren that I don't have and never am going to, but you know what I'm trying to say about that. Will they listen to their music? I don't know. Does that make someone an icon or an influencer or a disruptor? I don't know. I think people can do some pretty incredible things in the short time that they have here, and we may never have even heard of them. So we're challenging a handful of different ideas with these next few artists. Today's episode is going to be about Billy Strings. Now, I'm going to rely a lot heavier on my notes for these next few as well, because I'm not very familiar with these artists. Also, as these artists are contemporary, there is an insane amount of content about them on the internet. Like if I went down the Billy Strings fucking rabbit hole, I think I could watch every single gig he's played ever. Nugs.com. Is that it? Oh my God. Did I just sound like the biggest Nana ever? Probably. Anywho, like everything he does is recorded. Everything from practice sessions to interviews to on-stage performances to touring, like to walking through parking lots. Like it's kind of an overwhelming amount of content and art that you can consume. He's been interviewed 1,000,000 times. He's one of those artists that doesn't stop. And he's been playing and performing since he was like a baby. No shit. And there have been some things in his life that I think drive him on a different level. And we'll get into that in this episode. But Billy Strings is absolutely and arguably one of the most important and unexpected disruptors working in music right now. If you had said to anyone ever that a bluegrass player under the age of 30 could have the rabid fan base that Billy Strings has, people would have laughed in your face. I think this episode might hit different because Billy hits different. His speed, his discipline, and his legacy was built through roots, not algorithms. As per all of the artists in this series, and I think you listening can understand, they had no choice. Billy didn't do this to get followers and likes on social media platforms. He did this because he had no other option. It was literally life and art or nothing. Fast hands, deep roots. What would Billy Strings do? This episode is going to be about the business of mastery, lineage, and shredding your way into a future only you could build. Most people think disruption has to look loud, weird, branded and bright, flashing neon lights, huge breaks in industry and the way things are done, lots of press and PR, lots of opinions. But some of the deepest trailblazers might just be dressed in a flannel shirt with a guitar or banjo that's been passed down through the ashes of addiction and memory. Billy Strings didn't build a brand. He built a legacy, a reputation. He built a business around the fire that forged it. In the Nina episode, we talked a little bit about mastering your craft. And it's easy to see that posthumously. Like, Nina was around for decades, and it has been decades since her music has continued to influence us all. Billy might have plural decades. If you count that he's been playing since he was 3 years old, he just barely scrapes by. But he absolutely dedicated himself to the lineage and legacy of his craft. I mean, in a way that is the only doable by meth addicts. We're going to talk about what it means to go all in on your craft and how to carve new roads through tradition to make mastery out of the most rebellious business move of all, from broken to bluegrass to phenom. Before Billy Strings was headlining amphitheaters and winning Grammys, he was William Apostle. He was born in Michigan, raised in poverty and chaos, learning from his stepfather, Terry Barber. His stepfather is renowned for having put a guitar in his hand at 3 years old. And that guitar became Billy's sanctuary. By the age of 13, Billy was playing Doc Watson flat-picking solos note for note. By 16, he was in metal bands and doing mushrooms in the woods. By 20, he'd lost friends to overdoses, buried family members, and was just trying to stay alive. So what did he do? He took all of it: grief, speed, skill, addiction, recovery, touring, relentlessly. And he made music about that journey that meant something. In 2015, Billy released a self-titled EP with Don Julin, a mandolin player twice his age. They toured in a station wagon. They played every show that said yes. In 2017, Billy released Turmoil and Tinfoil, fully independent. It debuted at number 3 on the Billboard Bluegrass chart. No major label, no mainstream coverage, real-time audience and fan building through performance. In 2019, he signed with Rounder Records, one of the most respected independent roots labels in the US. And the next year, Home won the Grammy for Best Bluegrass Album. In 2022, Renewal sold out 15,000 seat venue. So if you're paying attention, 10 years of touring. And we're not just talking touring, my friend. Like, if you think about going to see a show every single night for 10 years, and oftentimes multiple shows being played in a day, because you can do that in like bluegrass and roots scenes, that's what we're talking about. And also writing in between, and also recording in between. Billy did all of this by staying deeply loyal to the genre that built him, not by modernizing it, not by changing it, but by owning it. One of the things he is absolutely renowned for is his integrity in his art and his discipline. And he'll say in multiple interviews, he still plays every day, a minimum of 4 hours a day. Can you think of anything you've done that much? And not to say that that's what has to happen, but that's also what disruptor can mean, is a young person going back to their roots, being so willing to just do the dang thing and master their craft, that they have the same intuitive know-how as someone who's been doing it for 60 years. Master your craft until it becomes your business plan. Billy Strings didn't have a viral moment that flipped his career into notoriety. He had velocity. The dude plays like he's possessed. And some might say he is. This isn't just raw talent. It was relentless refinement. He said in interviews that he plays for hours every single day, still, even on tour, even after winning Grammys. His business model is simply mastery. It's not marketing. He played guitar obsessively from childhood. And a lot of that probably has to do with just pure survival. I have this working theory around addiction, and I won't get into it on this episode, but that could be applied to his playing. And there's a drive and a hunger that I believe, again, my personal theory, that comes from that way of engaging with the world. And it is compulsive. It is also compartmentalizing. And so if everything around you feels like it's on fire, but you have this one thing that you can focus on, it becomes this escape. And again, I think a lot of people who I work with, and I think you listening can relate to, what might have been an escape or a compulsion could be defined as a creative practice. But it becomes your mission, your raison d'etre, like the problem that you inherently, incessantly need to solve. And there's magic in that when we can take away the why, as in, there was addiction and violence and chaos in his childhood. And it's interesting to hear him talk about his upbringing and his parents. And I'll let him do that for you. I encourage you to just fucking Google Billy Strings, especially on YouTube, search him out and see some of his interviews. But he's very able to both have compassion and understanding for the trauma that shaped him and gave him his incessant, some might say addictive drive. He is known for cross-picking, which is a very technical and demanding style of playing. And again, like reserved for like the old timers, not some young scrapper out of Michigan. Like Michigan, we're not talking like the Appalachian South. Fellow bluegrass great Brian Sutton said, Billy elevated the bar for what's possible on the instrument. He was quoted as saying that in Acoustic Guitar Magazine in 2021. What if your best marketing strategy was just a compulsive need to do the thing you do? Like, what if just putting your head down, butt up, and doing your dang thing was your strategy? Like, that's pretty simple. We're not worrying about the social media content that accompanies it. You just become the best at what you do by doing it. No gimmicks, no growth hacks, just undeniable excellence. Go deeper into your niche, not wider. Billy didn't try to modernize bluegrass to fit the market. He didn't even worry about the fact that he was playing music for old people. I just offended a lot of you listening. Just go with me on this wordplay and verbiage. Okay. You get it. He went deeper into the roots and brought the audience to him. So he brought all the youngins to the oldies. It's a beautiful thing. He plays old fiddle tunes with the intensity of a rock solo. He covers traditional artists like Bill Monroe and Doc Watson, but then he blends them with the Grateful Dead, Black Sabbath, and psychedelic lights. He didn't abandon tradition. He made it unforgettable. he took it from the old timers and made it popular. His cover of Dust in a Baggie, a traditional sounding bluegrass song about meth addiction, has over 18 million views on YouTube. His 2021 Red Rocks set featured bluegrass classics, extended jam sections, and covers of post-rock bands like Widespread Panic. Home and Renewal both hit #1 on the Billboard Bluegrass chart, while drawing non-bluegrass crowds. If you go deep enough into your discipline, your niche becomes magnetic. Billy didn't chase trends. He doubled down on where he came from, and then he made it feel new because of his love and passion for it. You've experienced somebody who's so excited about something, you feel like you're discovering it for the first time. That's what he did with this music that's been around for lifetimes. Make your backstory a core brand asset. This, I think Billy did this seamlessly. I'm not familiar enough yet to understand how he was really able to do this. And I think a lot of it just has to do with contextually as a society and as a culture, we have so much more space for where his background than where he's come from and some of the things he's been through and experienced and participated in. But Billy talks openly about his trauma, his recovery, and his complicated family legacy. He doesn't do it for clout. He's not trying to trauma bond. It's just a part of who he is. And because he has no shame about it, you don't feel sorry for him. You also don't feel judgmental. I mean, there's some pretty debatable activities, like I said, that Billy's been a part of. Again, I will let him tell you his story, but he weaves that into his music, into his performance, into his persona, because it's who he is. He lets his dedication to his craft, what we might call his talent, I personally just see it as his unrelenting work ethic. He lets that do the heavy lifting for him. His songs about addiction, about grief, about rage, about redemption, they didn't need a PR campaign to soften the blow, to identify the vulnerability, to seek resonance and ultimately approval. His stepfather, Terry, who's a musician, the one he credits with putting the guitar in his hand at such a young age, he passed away in 2021. Billy's tour paused and then resumed with a tribute set. His song Away from the Mire is a direct reference to leaving behind destructive environments. And it's one of his most celebrated tracks, clocking in at over 25 million Spotify streams. Billy was supposed to play after the hurricane here in Asheville, North Carolina, and everything had shut down for months. When he came back, it was either 8 or 10 nights in a row that he played, with proceeds going to the hurricane recovery here. The entire region experienced this music. And I can tell you, like, it took them weeks to recover. You know, you could still see all of the merchandise, all of the little clips on the hats, like Billy's impact in this region. And for me personally, was on a completely different level. I wasn't yet ready to go out. It took me a little bit longer to get back into it, but I will be forever grateful for everyone who has shown up for this community in this region. But Billy really, that kind of felt like the beginning of the turnaround, if you will, just bringing that many people together to celebrate each other and music and community and art was something very, very needed. You don't need a sob story, but you do need to understand the emotional texture of your origin and how to integrate that with elegance. Again, that shamelessness was profound for Billy. And again, I don't have a long history with this particular artist, But what I can say, having watched the small segment of interviews and content that's out there, is he presents it very directly. His story is just simply that, his version of his own history, up for debate and interpretation, but he takes no responsibility or ownership over that in terms of him just simply letting you know what's happened to him and how it's influenced who he is today. So what would Billy do? Mastery is the magnet. Billy didn't get discovered. He got devoured. People saw him live and couldn't look away. Pick one thing in your business, sales, writing, presenting, product design, and practice it with obsessive consistency. Maybe you get a coach like Billy did, or a mentor like he did with Don Julin. Maybe you set a schedule the way musicians rehearse. Maybe you film yourself doing things that you want to be legendary, and then you watch the tape to improve. When your skills become undeniable, your brand becomes inevitable. Don't expand. Don't widen your breadth. Go deeper. Billy didn't start a side hustle. He just played bluegrass. And he played so hard that non-bluegrass fans became evangelists. That's how he disrupted, my friend. He took something we'd all basically forgotten about because we feel like it's just been around for so long, it's boring. And he made it fresh again. He turned people who don't like folk music and bluegrass into fans. I'm raising my hand, but I'm kind of lying because I do like bluegrass. But anywho, stop trying to be all things to all clients. Take your niche and add layers, aesthetics, storytelling, deep cuts, community, traditions. Go deep. Make your specialty feel sacred, not limited. Billy would say the deeper you go, the more people will follow. Turn your origin into your offer. Billy doesn't post trauma for clout. He writes songs so felt that people weep at festivals. Tell one true story from your life and use it to frame a sales page, a keynote, or a workshop. Don't share the trauma, share the transformation. Let your backstory power the emotional engine of your brand, not dominate it, just color it, give it energy. People don't just want your product, they want your why. There is a playlist that accompanies this. I am hoping that all of these playlists are malleable. Like I said, I am not an expert, but I would love to know what are your favorite Billy Strings songs and why. And I would love for you to add them to the playlist as well. So I think I've got about like 17, 18 songs on there right now. I mean, there are thousands of Billy Strings covers and live cuts and recorded music. And he's an absolute virtuoso of our times. He didn't blow up because he made bluegrass cool again. He blew up because he made it unforgettable. He didn't scale fast. He scaled in real time. By being relentlessly good, by staying close to his roots, by making the pain and precision the point. You don't need to be louder, but you might want to go deeper into your craft, into your story, into the fire that forged you. Your work doesn't lie. And when it's real, it never has to chase, to scale faster, to sprint. It just builds legacy. It builds real, undeniable following. That was a fast one. I guess that's what happens when you're as new to this disruptor as I am. Thank you for being here. Again, I'd love to hear from you. I hope you're enjoying these. Next one's going to be even weirder.